Boy, do we have a lot to talk about on today's show. We're going to recap all of the latest Jonathan Taylor rumors involving the Browns, as there's been some trade buzz going on there. Plus, I've got 8 takeaways from Andrew Berry's press conference I want to share with you. But friendly reminder, go ahead and subscribe. We are 500 on the dot, away from 25,000 subscribers, so consider joining the channel if you have not already. But let's start things off by talking about Jonathan Taylor and whether or not the Browns should trade for him or will trade for him, which are two different things. Now, I think the first part of this conversation has nothing to do with Jonathan Taylor. We have to have a tough conversation, and that is Nick Chubb and his future with the Browns, or maybe not just with the Browns, but Nick Chubb's future in football, period, because initially there was a big fear that Nick Chubb could miss a lot of time and maybe even the rest of his career after suffering a very serious left knee injury for the second time in his football career. And then we got some good reports that the ACL might be intact. And then quietly this past weekend, it looks like those reports are not to be the truth. Now, here's what we know about Nick Chubb so far. He underwent surgery at the end of September to repair his torn MCL, meniscus, and medial capsule, whatever that means. Now, the Browns confirmed that Chubb will need a second surgery to repair his ACL. You can't get it all done at once, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But that second surgery may not be for another 2 to 3 months. So sure, you might think, oh, well, Nick Chubb got hurt at the start of the season. He should be in line ready to return at the start of next season, if not ready to go week 1. But if Nick Chubb can't get a second surgery done for, say, 2-3 months from now, we're talking October, November, December, that would potentially knock him out for all of 2024. And so now we're not even going to see Chubb until 2025. Now, Andrew Berry had his press conference today, and we'll do a deeper dive on it in the second half of today's show. But I do want to share this quick note from it, where Scott Petrak tweeted out, Andrew Berry said Browns will have plenty of time to figure out Nick Chubb's contract situation. Focus right now is supporting him in early stages of rehab. I'm not betting against Nick Chubb, and no one should bet against Batman because Nick Chubb is freaking awesome. But there are some financial and business side of this things we do have to discuss. Nick Chubb's 2024 contract has an $11.7 million base salary, nearly $16 million cap hit, and just a dead cap hit of $4 million. So no one wants to say this part out loud, but it's my job to, and that is the Browns could get out of Nick Chubb's contract relatively easy if they wanted to go a different direction, if they don't think Nick Chubb is ever going to get back to the Nicholas Jamal Chubb we all know and love. There is a really, really real chance that Nick Chubb misses a big chunk of 2024. If he does not get that second ACL surgery done, or the first ACL surgery, but that second knee surgery done for another 3 months or so, if it's a 12-month recovery from then, we're talking about a January return potentially, December, January 2024. So maybe the Browns just put him on the shelf for all of 2024, and we don't see him until 2025. My guess is Andrew Berry is not going to want to wait around that long to get really good running back play, and that's where Jonathan Taylor could enter the mix. We know that Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in the NFL when he is at full speed. I mean, he led the NFL in rushing in 2021, barely edging out Nick Chubb, 1,800 yards. But look at the touchdowns. I mean, 18 touchdowns, right? Averaging over a touchdown a game that season. And you look at the season prior, 2020 to 2021, he went off for nearly 30 touchdowns on the ground alone. Last year, he missed some time with an ankle injury. He was limited. He did not look like the guy who was averaging over 5 yards a carry his first 2 seasons in. He took a bit of a step back. But if he is 100% healthy, there is good reason to believe you could be getting a near 1,800-yard rusher. Now, Mary Kay recently put out an article that got a lot of Browns fans super, I wouldn't say worked up, but maybe juiced up at the idea of Jonathan Taylor coming to Cleveland. Here's what Mary Kay wrote in a very long article, but I thought this part was very important. Again, the Browns have apparently shown no interest in him to this point, but now that they're at the bye, it's time to at least give it some thought. Taylor, who asked to be traded in preseason, still wants out of Indianapolis, which has been unwilling to sign him to an extension, and would undoubtedly welcome a trade to Cleveland. A lot of fans took that article and said, or thought, the Browns want Jonathan Taylor, right? And Jonathan Taylor wants to come to Cleveland, so it's a match made in heaven. But Mary Kay herself said in there the Browns have shown no interest. So I don't think Mary Kay is signaling the Browns are interested in Taylor. Where there's been plenty of times in free agency in the offseason when Mary Kay says the Browns are looking at someone like she did with Elijah Moore, for example, there is reason to believe that the Browns might be looking into that guy. This particular case here, I think Mary Kay is just doing her job, which is she's giving an opinion on the situation, right? She is recommending the Browns go out and get Jonathan Taylor. Just because she recommends that, or just because she gives her opinion, does not necessarily believe the Browns are going to do that, or the Browns are looking into it, right? If the Browns are looking into it, that's one thing. But nowhere does Mary Kay say, per sources, the Browns have picked up the phone and inquired about Jonathan Taylor. So there is a difference between the two, but it does not take a rocket scientist to realize the Browns' ground game has gone down the toilet. Jonathan Taylor is a premier back that does not come on the market in the prime of their career very often, and the Browns would be wise to keep this offensive train rolling and pick up Jonathan Taylor and make their way through the rest of the year with another elite running back. The issue I have is the money. Look at the highest paid running backs per year. Jonathan Taylor is not with the Colts right now because he wants a contract extension, something Indianapolis is not interested in doing. So if the Colts aren't going to give him a contract extension, surely a team that trade for him would. And if that's the Browns, I don't know if they're interested in giving him over $12 million a season. Like, they have Nick Chubb basically for pennies compared to what Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's in his own tier. But it's an awesome deal for the Browns at Nick Chubb at $12 million. Like, that was a great extension by Andrew Berry back in August of 2021. Jonathan Taylor's going to want to get around $15 million. I don't know if the Browns are interested in that, right? The Browns are not giving up quality draft picks for a one-year rental. So if you're thinking, well, why don't the Browns just trade for Jonathan Taylor, use him for the rest of this year, and then move on after this year? No, Jonathan Taylor is going to cost you a good amount of draft capital. If you are investing that draft capital into a player, you want him around for more than just the remaining, 13 games in the season? Like, there's got to be a longer-term play here. So is Cleveland prepared to extend Taylor as well? That I'm not so sure about. I mean, look at the Browns' 2024 cap hits, okay? They've got some big ones coming up. Deshaun Watson's deal will get restructured again, but still, like, you can only kick the can so far down the road to the point where you're not able to pay everyone what they want, right? You got 5 players on screen right now making over 60% of the Browns' cap space in 2024. Add Jonathan Taylor to that. Sure, if they gave him an extension, they would do what they did for Deshaun, what they did for Denzel Ward, and make his base salary for year one super duper low and have higher base or higher cap hits down the road when the cap hit goes up. But still, the cap's a myth. It's a fugazi. It doesn't exist. It's not real. But at some point, I would think that this might be biting off more than you could chew. Now, Andrew Berry is a cap wizard, no doubt about it. So who am I to say he cannot make a Jonathan Taylor trade and extension work? But extending him, it just seems too much to grasp, right? At some point, you would think they can't simply pay everyone, right? And paying Jonathan Taylor $14 million a season for the next 4 years on top of what they're already paying players, that seems just too much. I don't know how else to put it, but it just seems like that would be a bridge too far, if you will. All right, now today's Cleveland Browns report is sponsored by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. If you're trying to catch an upcoming Browns game, or you want to see a concert or another sporting event in your area, Game Time is the place to visit first. What I love about Game Time specifically is the ability to get last-minute tickets for the lowest price. There's nothing better than when you got all the guys together in a basement or at a bar and you're like, you know what? Let's go to the Browns-Niners game next Sunday. Well, there's nothing worse than when that awesome spur-of-the-moment trip goes down the toilet because you look at ticket prices and they are way too high. Thankfully, Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats and tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BROWNSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BROWNSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. To kind of put a bow on the Jonathan Taylor segment for today's show, I do want to highlight that Jonathan Taylor could be in the backfield, and I don't know how much better this ground game would be unless the offensive line improves. Look at the PFF run blocking grades here. Jed Wills at the near bottom of the barrel with 44 on the dot. DeJuan Jones, unfortunately, as a rookie, has struggled. That's going to improve, but he is, birth by fire, more or less, pass protecting against TJ Watt in his first start and trying to move the ground game as well. Joel Petone at 59, that seems on the low side for him. I mean, definitely on the low side for him. I don't know what PFF is seeing, but still. Wyatt Teller at 63.3, Ethan Posick at 71.8. The Browns have acknowledged their ground game needs to be better, and that starts with the offensive line. I've got no doubt that this offensive line will improve, but even if they do improve at some point, Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt can only take you so far. So here's the trade idea I've cooked up. Jonathan Taylor for 2 third-round picks. It's a bit of a gamble, right? Going into the next year's draft with no first and no third-round draft pick, and you've already moved on from some picks for Zadarius Smith and some other guys like that. So this might be a bit too rich, but let me know. Would you do this trade? 2 third-round picks for Jonathan Taylor? The way I like to test it is, like I always say, if you got the notification, the Browns are trading for Jonathan Taylor, what's your instant reaction going to be? It's probably going to be, let's effing go, right? It's probably not going to be, but the 2025 draft. No, you're probably going to be super pumped up about this. So if they ultimately do pull this off, I'd be lying if I wasn't excited, but I think that would definitely be a sign of the Browns don't expect Nick Chubb to return. I don't see a way you hold on to Nick Chubb after trading for Jonathan Taylor. Let's get into my Andrew Berry press conference takeaways. I've rambled on too long, so I'm going to try to rapid fire these bad boys here. First takeaway, protect the football. If you took one thing away from AB's press conference this morning, it was he wants to protect the football. He said changes after the bye, change number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, protect the football. They have lost the turnover battle in the first 4 games of the season. They are lucky to be 2-2 if you keep losing the turnover battle. That is not sustainable, as he said, so protect the damn football. All right, second takeaway. The Deshaun Watson saga has a new turn to it, if you will. So, one, I thought this was a very interesting tidbit that came out of AB's presser. Mary Kay tweeted out, Andrew Berry noted that Deshaun Watson went from not being able to lift his arm to thinking by Friday he'd be able to face the Ravens. Pretty bold of the coaching staff, don't you think, to have the game plan be all week, Deshaun Watson's our starting quarterback, so we don't need to scheme anything up for DTR. We've got Watson. And then at the last moment, we actually have to go to DTR, and we don't really have a good game plan for him installed. Don't you think that there's a very real chance Watson would not play if he was not being able to lift his arm even? Like, that seems like a pretty big sign that he's not going to be able to go. So why that warning sign was not taken more seriously, I don't know, but that's definitely a bad strike on the coaching staff. Now, Andrew Berry also had a very interesting quote I wanted to share with you guys. Here's what he said. When we got out on Sunday and when we took him through the pregame workout, it became obvious to all of us that he couldn't throw or drive the ball well enough to perform in the game. It just wasn't at a level where we felt comfortable that he could ultimately perform the duties of his position. But this is your quarterback, and his job is to throw the ball anywhere from 30 to 35 times a game. And if he can't push it, if he can't drive it, if he can't throw it down the field, which became very evident early in the workout, it became a very easy decision for us not to put him out there. Hold up. Kevin Stefanski was on a Zoom call on Monday morning saying Deshaun Watson made the decision that he was not going to play. Right? The Browns said he was medically cleared. But Andrew Berry just said it was on us. So I think this is a classic, all right, Stefanski, I think you probably said more than you intended to. That happens to everyone when they speak to the media. Once a week, you're probably going to accidentally let something slip out. So AB is going to come in and kind of brush this under the rug and say, no, this was not Deshaun Watson saying, I don't want to play. Thus, the coaching staff kind of threw him under the bus with that comment. I'm going to come in and I'm going to clean this all up by saying It was a joint decision, right? We all decided that he could not go. The cure for this entire Deshaun Watson saga, by the way, is win in week 6. If the Browns beat the 49ers, who could be undefeated, so you could be giving them their first loss of the season, no one's going to be talking about this anymore. So if you want this to go away, Stefanski and Barry and Watson, go out there and win next Sunday. Third takeaway here, the Jonathan Taylor trade portion of the presser. So exclude what we just talked about because this is kind of a separate entity. Andrew Barry was, of course, asked about, hey, the running back room, could we see a trade for like a guy like, I don't know, Jonathan Taylor? And, well, here's what MKC tweeted out. Andrew Barry can't say if he'd pursue Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, but we're pleased with the running back room. Andrew Barry cannot say if they're going to go after Jonathan Taylor because of tampering issues, right? But he did say we're pleased with the running back room. So if you're looking for an inclination coming out of this presser, it's that I don't think Andrew Barry is trying to show his hand that they are going to make a move for a running back, which I remember before or after the draft, Andrew Barry kind of said, we could be looking to add some more edge rushers. And then we got to Darius Smith. He didn't say that here, so do with that what you will. Moving on to the fourth takeaway here. Are we going to get a Grant Delpit extension? Now, again, Andrew Barry used this line several times throughout his presser, and that was, this is not a good setting or this is not a good environment to discuss these types of topics. But he definitely praised Grant Delpit and his play so far this season. And he kind of had that classic, like, Andrew Barry smirk where he goes right for the reporter's first name, where he's like, you know what, Jake? You know what, Tony? I can't say. But Grant Delpit, I think, is definitely deserving of an extension. He's been one of the best safeties in football this year. So I'd love to see Grant Delpit get locked up for the long term here. But let me know what you think. Are we overreacting to 4 weeks? Because there are plenty of instances of teams extending players and then it looks really bad. So right now it feels like it's a great idea. But are you buying in long term that Grant Delpit can be this guy with or without Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator? That's definitely something to think about. Fifth takeaway I've got. Andrew Barry expressed some faith in Jedrick Wills. And I hope Jed Wills was listening because he needs to hear that because it has not been a pretty picture so far for Jedrick Wills. You look at his PFF grades through the first quarter of the season pretty much now. He's one of the worst tackles in football. I mean, I think just objectively, whether you want to use PFF as the grading scale or anyone else, there's no covering it up. He has been downright awful. He really has been. He's been awful against the run, and he's been, I guess, mediocre at best against in pass protection. So Andrew Barry expressed some faith that Jed Wills knows that he's playing bad football and that they think he's going to turn around. Fingers crossed. Andrew Barry definitely knows more than I do. So if he says so, obviously he's going to come in optimistic on everything, but I'm definitely concerned. All right, moving on to my sixth takeaway now. No trades this week. Andrew Barry was asked about, could we see any moves coming up? And he's like, listen, I know you guys think the trade deadline is almost here, but from his point of view, it's still a ways away. And it kind of is. It's October 31st. It's October 4th today. So we are still a few weeks away, and I think this is more of a signal of he wants to see more film and more data points on this team before making any drastic moves. So I don't think we're going to see a trade during the bye, but it is Andrew Barry. You can never rule it out. Next one, he expressed some confidence in the wide receivers. This kind of goes back to the trades when he was asked, could we see an improvement or in addition to the wide receiver room? He's like, no, I like our wide receivers. He gave a nice little snippet of Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and DPJ getting an extra reps after practice every single day, running wind sprints so that they can keep up with this no-huddle offense. So I think you're going to see the same receivers moving forward. And then finally, maybe I'm a sheep here. This is kind of me simping to Andrew Barry. I just love listening to Andrew Barry. The way he delivers himself and the way he commands a room, I come away from every press conference going, I'll run through a brick wall for that guy. Like, I am buying into what he's saying, right? I am a believer in what Andrew Barry's vision is. He did have that one sentence of, I want the fans to be patient and to, be with us as we improve throughout the rest of the year. And that probably wasn't the best thing to say to Cleveland Browns fans who've been patient their entire lives. But still, I just love listening to AB. I come out of that presser thinking, you know what? This team and this franchise is in good hands. All right, I've taken up way too much of your time today, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you liked the video, like the video, and also subscribe to the channel.